My boyfriend recorded me crying during an argument and sent it to his family group chat with the caption, "Cry more, maybe you'll lose weight." Everyone laughed. When confronted, he said, "It was just a joke. You're too sensitive." 6 months later, he was outside my apartment screaming at my window. I remember the day I finally saw myself clearly, not through my own tear-filled eyes, but through the camera lens of someone who was supposed to love me. For 2 years, I had been with him. 2 years of carrying the weight of our relationship on my shoulders, while he coasted through life with the ease of someone who never had to worry about tomorrow. I was 28, working 60-hour weeks at a marketing agency, coming home to cook dinner, clean our apartment, and make sure our life ran smoothly. He was 30, working sporadically as a freelance graphic designer, spending most days playing video games and meeting friends for beers that I ultimately paid for. I paid for a lot of things. Our rent, though the lease was only in my name, our groceries, our utilities, our occasional dinners out. I even paid for his car insurance because he convinced me it was just temporary until his big break came. That was 18 months ago. But money wasn't the only thing I invested. I poured my heart into our relationship. I listened to his dreams, his frustrations, his complaints about clients who just didn't get his vision. I massaged his ego when he was feeling insecure. I picked up his dirty laundry from the bathroom floor and washed it without complaint. I was his girlfriend, his therapist, his maid, his bank. And somehow I had convinced myself this was love. The day everything changed was an ordinary Tuesday in April. I came home from work exhausted after presenting to a difficult client. The apartment was a mess. Empty pizza boxes on the coffee table, dirty dishes in the sink, his clothes scattered across the floor. He was sprawled on the couch, controller in hand, headset on, shouting excitedly to his gaming friends. I remember sighing deeply, dropping my laptop bag, and starting to clean. He didn't even look up. It wasn't until I accidentally blocked his view of the television that he acknowledged my presence. "Babe, can you move? We're in the middle of something." That was the spark that finally lit the fuse of my long-suppressed frustration. I asked him, calmly at first, if he could help clean up. He paused the game, looking annoyed, and said he would get to it later. We both knew that was a lie. What started as a simple request spiraled into a bigger argument about responsibility, respect, and the fundamental imbalance in our relationship. The more I pointed out concrete examples of how I carried our life, the more defensive he became. He deflected, minimized, twisted my words until I was emotional and confused. And then the tears came. I hate crying during arguments. It makes me feel weak, like I'm losing control. But there I was, voice trembling, tears streaming down my face, desperately trying to make the person I loved understand how much he was hurting me. I didn't notice he had picked up his phone until much later. "Why do you always have to be so dramatic?" he said with an eye roll, then returned to his game as if our conversation, my pain, was simply an inconvenient interruption to his day. I retreated to our bedroom, emotionally drained. I didn't know then that while I was crying, trying to communicate my hurt, he was recording me. I didn't know that seconds after I left the room, he sent that video to his family group chat with the caption, "Cry more, maybe you'll lose weight." I learned about it 3 days later. His younger sister had always been kind to me. We weren't close, but there was a mutual respect. She texted me privately with a screenshot of the group chat and a simple message. "I thought you should know. This isn't right." The screenshot showed my tear-stained face, captured without my knowledge or consent. Below it was his cruel caption, followed by laughing emojis from his mother, father, and older brother. His sister was the only one who hadn't reacted. My stomach dropped. My hands shook. I felt violated in a way I had never experienced before. This wasn't just disrespect. It was public humiliation by the person who was supposed to be my partner, enthusiastically received by people who smiled to my face at family gatherings. That evening, I confronted him. I showed him the screenshot and asked how he could do something so hurtful. His response haunts me to this day. "It was just a joke. You're too sensitive." Then he had the audacity to be angry at his sister for stirring up drama. No apology, no remorse. Just annoyance that he'd been caught. I went to bed that night feeling like a stranger in my own home, next to a man who had become a stranger to me. But something had changed inside me. The tears didn't come this time. Instead, a cold clarity washed over me. I saw him, truly saw him, perhaps for the first time. The next morning, I woke up early and made a list in my journal. Every bill I'd paid, every emotional burden I'd carried, every sacrifice I'd made, every time he'd belittled me, only to call it a joke when I expressed hurt. It filled 3 pages. I called my best friend from the bathroom, keeping my voice low. "I need help," I whispered. "I need to get out." Over the next 3 weeks, I operated with the precision of someone planning a military extraction. While he was out with friends or at his occasional freelance gigs, my friend helped me move my essential belongings to her spare room. Clothes, important documents, sentimental items. Bit by bit, I extracted myself from our shared life. He didn't notice. He was too absorbed in his games, his friends, his own world that I had been merely supporting, but never truly part of. I reviewed our rental agreement with a fine-tooth comb. As I suspected, only my name was on the lease. I had all the legal right to the apartment, but I didn't want it anymore. Every corner held memories I needed to leave behind. I arranged for a new apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I set up utilities in my name only. I opened a new bank account at a different bank. I untangled our digital lives, changing passwords, removing payment methods from shared accounts, all while sleeping beside him, cooking his meals, listening to his trivial complaints about online gaming tournaments. 4 weeks after discovering the video, I was ready. I waited for a Friday when he was scheduled to spend the entire day at a gaming convention with his friends. I took the day off work. My friend arrived with her truck early in the morning, and we removed the last of my belongings in 3 efficient trips. I left his things neatly organized. I even did a final cleanup of the apartment, not for him, but because I wanted to leave with dignity. On the kitchen counter, I left 3 envelopes. The first contained the rent payment for the next month, giving him time to figure out his situation. The second contained a formal letter stating I was vacating the apartment and that as he was not on the lease, he would need to make arrangements with the landlord if he wished to stay. The third contained a single sheet of paper with 2 sentences. The person who loves you shouldn't be the person you hurt the most. I deserve better. I left my key and walked away. He called 43 times that night. I didn't answer. He left 27 voicemails, evolving from confusion to anger to desperate pleading. I listened to each one, strengthening my resolve with every manipulative word. His messages followed a predictable pattern. First came the confusion. Where are you? What's going on? Then the anger. You can't just leave like this. This is insane. Answer your phone. Then the guilt trips. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? Then the promises. I'll change. I'll get a real job. I'll do better. And finally, the threats. If you don't come back, you'll regret it. You'll never find anyone who understands you like I do. I blocked his number. His family reached out next. His mother's message dripped with fake concern. We're worried about him. He's not eating, not sleeping. Whatever happened between you two, surely it can be fixed. I blocked her too. His father was more direct. You're being childish. Couples, fight. Be an adult and work it out. Block. His brother simply wrote, he showed us the video again. You really were being dramatic. Block. Only his sister's message gave me pause. I understand why you left. I'm sorry for my part in not standing up to them sooner. Take care of yourself. I thanked her for her honesty that day and gently explained that I needed a clean break from the entire family. She understood. The first month in my new apartment was a detox period. I cried, I raged, I doubted myself. Had I overreacted? Was I too sensitive? The gaslighting had seeped deep into my psyche, but each time those thoughts surfaced, I reminded myself of that video, of his cruel caption, of the family's laughter at my expense. I focused on rebuilding. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion within 3 months. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the relationship. I started therapy to understand why I had allowed myself to be so diminished for so long. I redecorated my apartment in colors he had always vetoed. I adopted a cat from the local shelter, something he'd never allowed because of his allergies that mysteriously never bothered him at his cat-owning friend's house. Slowly, I reclaimed my life, my confidence, my joy. 5 months after I left, I ran into his brother at the grocery store. He pretended not to see me at first, then awkwardly acknowledged me when we ended up in the same checkout line. He's a mess without you, he said, as if this would affect me. That's unfortunate, I replied coolly, but no longer my concern. You know, he really loved you, he persisted. I looked him directly in the eyes. People who love you don't record you at your most vulnerable and mock you to their family. People who love you don't make jokes about your weight. People who love you don't make you feel small. He had no response to that. Word must have gotten back to my ex, because the harassment started again. New phone numbers I had to block. Emails I had to filter. Once, a delivery of my favorite flowers with a card that read, I was wrong. Please call me. I donated the flowers to a nursing home and shredded the card. 6 months to the day after I left him, it escalated. I was preparing for bed around 11 at night when I heard shouting from outside. I looked out my second-floor window to see him standing on the sidewalk below, clearly intoxicated, yelling my name. I know you're in there. Please, just talk to me. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I closed the curtains and called building security. Before they arrived, my phone buzzed with a message from his sister. Please answer him. He's been drinking all day. He won't listen to any of us. I'm worried he'll do something stupid. For a moment, I felt that familiar pull of responsibility, that need to fix, to care for, to manage his emotions. The trained response of putting his needs before my own. I took a deep breath and replied, I am not responsible for his choices or his emotional state. If you're concerned for his safety, call emergency services. Do not contact me again. Security arrived and escorted him off the property. I watched from behind my curtain as he argued with them, as they threatened to call the police, as he finally slumped into his sister's car that had pulled up to retrieve him. As they drove away, my phone rang. An unknown number, but I knew who it was. Something made me answer. His voice was slurred, desperate. Why are you doing this to me? And in that moment, I found my voice. Clear, strong, unwavering. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for myself. For 6 years, I carried you financially, emotionally, practically. I gave everything while you took and took. And when I was vulnerable, when I was hurting because of how you treated me, you recorded me without my consent. You mocked my weight. To your family, you turned my pain into a joke. And when confronted, you called me too sensitive instead of taking responsibility. He tried to interrupt, but I continued. No, you wanted me to talk to you. Now you will listen. I am not your emotional support animal. I am not your bank. I am not your maid. I am a whole person who deserves respect, consideration, and genuine partnership. You never saw me as an equal. You saw me as a resource to be used until I was depleted. That's not fair, he slurred. I loved you. No, I said firmly. Love is not what you gave me. Love doesn't humiliate. Love doesn't exploit. Love doesn't make excuses. Love takes responsibility. I can change, he pleaded. I've been in therapy. I got a full-time job. I'm different now. I'm glad to hear that, I said sincerely. But you're not doing it for me. You're doing it for yourself and for whoever comes next in your life. Our chapter is closed. Please. His voice broke. I miss you so much. What you miss, I said softly, is how convenient your life was when I was in it. That's not love. That's dependence. And I deserve more than being someone's crutch. What can I do to fix this? He asked, a note of desperation in his voice. Nothing, I replied simply. Some things can't be fixed. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired. What you can do is respect my decision and leave me alone. Completely. Permanently. I can't do that, he whispered. I can't give up on us. There is no us, I said with finality. There's you, and there's me, and we are on separate paths. Now, if you contact me again, if your family contacts me again, I will file for a restraining order. I've documented everything. This isn't a negotiation or a threat. It's a boundary. The line was silent for a long moment. You've changed, he finally said, a hint of accusation in his voice. Yes, I agreed. I've remembered who I was before I diminished myself to make you comfortable. I've remembered my worth. I ended the call and blocked the number. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The weight I had lost wasn't physical. It was the burden of carrying someone who refused to stand on his own. The burden of shrinking myself to avoid rocking a boat that was already sinking. In the year since then, I've heard through mutual acquaintances that he did maintain his job, that he moved back in with his parents, that he tells anyone who will listen that I abandoned him when he needed me most, painting himself as the victim of my emotional instability. I don't correct the narrative. I don't engage. I simply continue, building the life I deserve, one where I am valued, respected, and loved properly. Sometimes healing doesn't look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes the most powerful words you can say are no more. And to those who are where I once was, wondering if you're too sensitive when your pain is dismissed, wondering if love is supposed to feel like a constant uphill battle, it's not. You deserve gentleness. You deserve consideration. You deserve someone who would never dream of turning your vulnerability into entertainment. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. They'll still complain when the ashes don't burn. Bright enough, and you? What would you have done differently if you were in my place? Leave your comment.